So I woke up today with this annoying melody running around in my head. For whatever reason, it just wouldn't go away. It's kind of like a chiptunes, old school console, home console type game from the 80s or 90s. Period of my life that I spent a lot of time playing video games, much to my parents' chagrin. But as it turned out, roundabout way, I ended up working in that field today, these days. So that's kind of funny. I never thought it would end up happening. I never even had the dream to do that, but it just sort of in a roundabout way I ended up in there. So occasionally I get to make some really fun video game music. Not often the sort of throwback vintage chiptunes type of sound, but every now and then we do a game that kind of has that sort of vintage retro throwback vibe, art style. So I have to follow suit, of course, by making some music that fits in with that era. So I wanted to see if, as an experiment, we could try and pull off some of those tones just with the built-in Ableton stuff. I know that old school arcade games used a lot of FM synthesis, and the Sega Genesis had an FM music chip in there with several voices. I know the SID chip, SID, is a really popular type of sound. I'm not sure if we'll actually pull that exactly off, but in my experience in the past, I know we can at least get some things that sound oddly close, as far as like the classic arpeggiations of the old arcade sound. I know this arpeggiator provides that kind of feel, that kind of style. Typically, the saw makes for good. Almost sounding like old ColecoVision or Atari type of console. Yeah. The arpeggiator, strangely enough, really can mimic some of that old school vibe. And let's try a white noise loop in here. Very fun. I'm ready to go side scroll my way through life now. But not exactly is the melody that I had in my head. And, I guess when making this kind of music, you got to start somewhere. And it helps to start, with a lead line or percussion. At least for me, everyone's going to be different. Yeah, this really sounds like some dirty old... Yeah, you get the point. So maybe we'll start out with a beat. And usually with the old consoles, you had, only 4 voices to work with. I know the Nintendo had like a noise section, what they used for percussions a lot. It had like a bass section. You had another voice for, typically was the leads, and there was a sampler section. There might have been one more voice in there also. Each chip for each console was slightly different. And then, of course, when, Sony PlayStation came along with CDs, that changed everything. That's when, the MP3 took over and you started hearing a lot more cinematic or even orchestral sounding stuff, for better or for worse. But now you hear a lot of stuff going back to the retro style. especially with iPads and such being, such great mediums for games like that, old school games. So, like we've done in the past, we will just have maybe split this out so we have a little kick and then a little snare. Let's just hear what we got. Okay. Let's snare this out, and a lot of that music you could only do one sound at a time. There wasn't a lot of stacking of voices, so we'll try to honor that. And we need some noise here for our snare. This is obviously the operator is probably, I mean, it's probably okay in terms of trying to emulate some of that old school sound, or it's not going to be exact. There are VSTs out there, a lot of freebies that are coded specifically to emulate, and some are very, very, very faithful recreations of the old SID chips in some of those video game consoles. I know there are Nintendo ones, there's Game Boy ones, Sega ones, the old arcade style ones. Like that noise looped can sound a bit lo-fi, so that's kind of what we want. And also, of course, you can add a redux, and that will help bring sort of the sound quality down a little bit. Really mixing it up today, switching it up from our normal type of direction we go in, but that's okay. I think it's fun to play with new ideas. That's how you learn so much. We don't have to feel like this needs to go anywhere, this needs to be put out somewhere. Quite the opposite. This is just sketching for the sake of the love of it. So let's get some notes, So we're not allowed to stack any two notes at the same time. I'm going to hear a bit of, we don't have any choke happening here. So this is, all right. We'll have to change this beat up later. In fact, I kind of already want to tighten up some of these. And apparently a lot of what I've read, a lot of the old composers for, the early like Atari games and Nintendo back in the 80s, they had to script out the notes, and it looked really tedious, and they would have to load the text file onto a test cartridge and load that into the console and then play back and then hear a bunch of things that were wrong and then go back and edit the text file, load that back onto the console or the test cartridge, and it just seemed like, as far as iterating goes, such a pain in the butt. But somehow they made it work. I mean, some of those melodies are stuck in my head to this day, which may be where some of the idea for today's melody came from. Who knows? Of course, my keyboard skills suck, but nobody's caring here, so that's cool. We'll just call this lead. All right, so I'm gonna change with the pitches. I've got a really small little MIDI keyboard in front of me. So we'll just get the notes out, and then Let me turn this beat off. It's actually kind of, we'll get back to it, but slightly distracting a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so that may be enough for now. And I usually like to go in and kind of temper a lot of notes by hand. And it can be a tedious process, but in the end, you know, I think it's worth it. We also want to get some of that vibrato, like the old school mod files. Not that wide. Yeah. Okay, pushing pixels, pushing notes around. I'd much rather push notes around than pixels. I push pixels around for years as a graphic artist, which is maybe why my keyboard skills suck. I didn't spend a lot of time practicing that. Let's get this thing. And let's try. Cool. So we can come back to that lead in a bit. I also wanted to add in a bit of that sort of arpeggiated. Some of that arpeggiated love. The name of my new terrible funk album. Yeah, let's get that minor in there. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to sort of switch on this arpeggiator as we go. Not getting, oh, I guess we hit record. I see what happened there. So maybe we'll just pull all these back here. Maybe see what happens if we just quantize some of them. And kind of like that. A jumpy. You can really tweak things to your heart's content here. And we want this to start there. And this one seems to shut off too quick. We want this to just back to back with the other one. Or not. Maybe we'll try an octave down on this. I think what makes a really good song is a lot of changes, a lot of variation. If you listen to a lot of classical music or even commercial music, you'll notice that there is, you know, a lot of changes happen pretty often. So it's something to shoot for. It's not an easy feat because it does take a lot of time and tweaking, but really the best music takes a lot of time. So it's best to not, best to get used to trying to spend a lot of time playing with ideas and not trying to rush things out. But sometimes, especially as a commercial artist, like what I do, you have to rush things out. We could just loop this for now. And I think we need our little legato portamento action happening. So under the pitch section here, I know there's a glide. Yeah. Yeah, classic, chiptunes, mod files sound is that sort of bend, and you get that typically by overlapping the notes. But that's maybe a little too short, slow, and dramatic. All right, this can be our arpeggi. We need a triplet going on here. That's what I'm hearing, I think. Cool. Now we want to change the arpeggiator so that it fits with that. It fits with the change in the lead as far as key goes. So let's play with these two together. Amazing feature in Ableton 10 that I absolutely adore. So we've got this. One up and two up. There we go. You kind of get the picture anyway, I hope. It's not, too difficult to achieve the particular timbres and styles of sounds as long as you listen to a lot of that kind of music. Let's go ahead and make this red. The white is a little difficult to hear. Oh, not both of them. This is where having a lot of different colors can really help. Although I do wish that the darkened out ones would show up a little bit, light, like a lighter version of their color. And then I think we would start the lead over. And the next round of it, we'll change it up at the end, and then that will go into more of a key switch. And then we'd also want to have a bass line of some kind. Something or the other like that. Yeah, that's more of that classic Sega or upright arcade type of chip sound. They had the FM synth in those, and samplers also in those. Yeah, maybe I'll just Voodoo. Try an octave down here. Pretty cheesy and not super great, you know, but obviously when you're just getting ideas out, you want to whip it out quick and, you know, refine later. Sometimes I like to put a little bit of a delay on there just to kind of help it, you know, give it a little bit of that Super Nintendo Echo had kind of like it was like a rim, I want to say a real tight echo, like a slap type of echo. Sometimes putting a reverb on just helps it, you know, break up the space. It's nice to have a little, I think, a little mix between old school and new school, you know, adding in some effects, a little reverb, maybe a little phaser. Yeah, I don't think for this bass we want this note here. Also, we'll just shut that off for now. And probably want this to be even lower. It seems a bit... We could add some, you know, automate this so that at the end of some of these lines we get a little bit of that flamboyance that you notice in a lot of chip tunes, because you know, with chip tunes you didn't have too many effects you could apply to notes, but you know, vibrato was one, arpeggio was one, you could do portamentos, you could do slide up and slide down, and some velocity stuff. Some of the I guess the 90s trackers had, you know, a little delay, like note delay type of effects or whatever. So yeah, we could do some like volume shaping. And now this isn't exactly the sound that I had in my head. To get that would take probably a lot more time and patience. And I kind of didn't want to spend a ton of time on this, but just to kind of get out the general idea of the lead line, and also just play with some of these instruments to see, what it's like to try and emulate the emulators. To emulate the old SID emulator chips. Yeah, we wouldn't ever start a track like this with the lead. You always would be like the bass, the beat, something like that, and then the lead would come in, and then you would do stuff that you would have kind of in your typical song. You'd have a breakdown. You'd change up the beat a lot, change up the arpeggiated lines and bass lines. Try a few key switches along the way. So yeah, there's a lot that can be done, if you take the time to really tweak out the ideas, and takes a lot of note coaxing, as you can see. And maybe some other time we'll try and we'll get the idea more refined. So, but anyway, for now, let's go ahead and take this idea and kind of start to mangle it with some effects. Because, as much as I love to sit here and try and show people how to make commercial styles of music or retro, whatever game styles of music, I'd rather use this sketching time to build some alternative and unusual ideas, whatever that entails. And I usually just follow the spirit of it. So let's pull some sound from Chippy, and we'll just use this kind of as our bass sound source, and set the audio out to send. There's some go-to easy ways we could get started. Obviously we could add reverbs and grain delays and make the whole thing a wash. And I kind of wanted to play with the tempo a little bit, so we'll route out using loop BE. It's just a real great easy way to get experimental, and that is what we're all about here. So we'll call this tempo. What did I hit? I must have hit something. Alright, let's map this here. So we've got MIDI going out. And let's unlink this. And what I want to do is pull this range down a bit from 999. Let's make it 250. 20 is cool. Gosh, I wish we could go lower than that, but I guess you could program your MIDI clips to be whatever, double time or half time, and set your tempo to be double time, and that way you could turn that 20 into a 10, or that kind of. But I still don't think it makes sense for effects. They will only adhere to, if their tempo synced, to whatever the tempo is. Usually when I'm trying to work out an idea for a song like this, it'll take me a good day to get something that has a lot of changes, a lot of key switches, a lot of dynamic, something that sounds very comparable to what you might hear in one of those old games. I really did spend a lot of time, I think, making those songs back then, and it showed. I mean, those songs got stuck in a lot of people's heads. The theme to Legend of Zelda was just some really golden melodies that I've heard classical orchestras playing, and it holds up. It sounds really good. So obviously, whether you're using 8-bit chips or emulators or Ableton to kind of mimic that, notes are notes, and combinations of notes can translate to a whole orchestra, and I mean can be timeless no matter what medium you're using to sketch them out. I think it just comes down to the idea, like what combinations of notes and what order of keys and time signature changes and all that stuff. That's really what matters. Almost like with painting, it doesn't matter sometimes what colors you use, or it's all about the idea, the subject matter. It doesn't matter what medium, if you decide to use acrylic versus oil. It's all about what order you put the colors in, and you know what I'm saying. And that can take a while. That can take some time. I know people who've written orchestral scores, and it can take weeks. It's a lot of tweaking, and what kills me about that kind of songwriting is, a lot of those people are just doing that in their head. I mean, maybe they'll have a keyboard or a piano, but still, it's quite impressive. How do you take something as like a chiptune and actually turn it into some weird experimental type of sound with a lot of tweaking and finagling of effects, obviously? I am just expressionistically, haphazardly drawing some modulation in there. And I want to try, maybe we'll turn the plate. Corpus is great for those shiny, metally sounding. It's a good line between a real acoustic sounding source and something that's very synthetic. But the quality of it is so crisp and clean. It really does remind me of a lot of modules that I've heard. I think Mutable Instruments makes one. I'm not sure if it's braids or what, but I think it sounds comparable to that. Some would beg to differ with me on that, but to each their own. So yeah, this tempo, let's go ahead and pull this way down. Maybe we want a little bit of grit added in there. too much clean can be kind of boring, kind of sterile. I like a little distortion. I like to use it all, really, but... And the tremolo helps add some dynamic breaks in there. Which this is just an auto pan that has the phase set to 0. And I like to play with the normal so we get... The shape makes, you know, the volume a little more on and off. So a lot more sparse, as you can hear. Now I'm just curious what this will sound like if we pull from Chippy. Could be terrible, could do absolutely nothing for us. It's almost too sparse and quiet. Maybe we just boost the whole thing, or I guess we could boost this. So this technique, what I'm doing here with this effects, you know, is a good way to remix sounds, either, you know, just a single sound that you're not really happy with. It's fun to just kind of run it through, you know, a bunch of effects like this, or, you know, try running a whole track sometimes through effects chains. Well, let's go ahead and save this. 23. And I like to have a project that's just full of these Ableton files that have these long effects chains, you know, with a clip with some automation, and then you could just, you know, pick one. As long as you got them named okay, you can usually easily spot them inside, you know, and like Creature, for example. I doubt that's an effects chain. That's probably more like a... Well, let's just pull it in. Let's see. But I like to be able to just pull stuff in and, you know, start combining, and you never know what you'll get. That's a nice texture layer, I'd say. We could tweak it even further. We could run this through our effects layer, actually. Let's try that. Let's, then maybe I want to pull, put a vocoder that's pulling from Creature. And let's get weird and try playing with a tone in here. We put this random sample and hold. What happens? It's definitely affecting whatever's going on in this vocoder here. Let's type in 99.7. It shows us 100%, but really there's a decimal point in there. 99.9. So we've got 99.8. You can hear the feedback getting a little bit less with each decimal point. Of course, we have this. .9. And a little wet and dry for that. Maybe I'll turn this tempo off and just pull it down here. A little note in here. Use something like loop BE, pre-MIDI, to send MIDI CC to map to your tempo. I often like adding notes in clips. Just, you know, well, we've got the same MIDI CC in each clip, but they could just be dummy clips, which is convenient. I'm a big fan of this vocoding feedback loop. So let's pull from FX. It's all very underwater sounding. Has a little bit of semblance of the original. Guess we probably don't want this much volume. I really love sometimes pitching things down kind of a lot. And you get a whole other landscape oftentimes. Sometimes for better, sometimes it doesn't work out so well. Definitely strange things happening. Probably need an EQ in there, taming the bass a little bit. But when you pitch anything down 2 octaves, you're going to get a lot more bass no matter what. Just the way it is. Pretty much moving all the frequencies down a bunch of steps. let's put an EQ8 here. And let's go ahead and pull this down a little bit, but I think we do need to maybe also put a little shelf there. Things got a little too quiet there. I do like the sort of murkiness that's going on. Record some of that. Very urgent sounding. Intense resonances are right around in here. So we probably need to animate something or the other in here. Cool, let's might be a bit of a tremolo. Yeah, I like that. Good old Ableton hiccup. It's pretty obnoxious. I mean, we're just dragging in a utility. You kind of wonder, like, what is the holdup? What's it thinking about? Really transformative. try pulling the sound from, instead of creature, from analog. Yes, we need to choose that track. Definitely added a lot to this FX layer. Now what happens if we just pull the audio from Chippy? Well, we could also pick the beat and just pull from that layer. Grain delay is almost a pitch shifter, almost. It's, I wish they had a built-in pitch shifter. I guess you're supposed to use Max for Live for that. There's a lot happening here. It's interesting, the rhythms and the tonal stuff you can get when you run a beat through resonators. Pull this down a little bit. It's a lot of volume coming through. Let's go ahead and pull this off the grid. As well as this. It seems like creatures, we're not really getting much of anything coming through there. perhaps because of this thing we added in. Maybe a little too much of this. Try a little pitch bend here. Oops. Pitch jump on this here note could sound nice. Let's have a listen. So we are at, let's see, D1. Down to D0. Sure about this for now. Let's turn that off. And I want to try drum bus will sound like right at the very end. Could be really cruddy or definitely brings up the too much drive, maybe. And let's see. I'm hearing a warp flubber. There we go. just drop one on here too. And if we put it before the delay, we might get a more chorusy. Yeah. Far cry from a chiptune, but it's fun to try to take that idea and just warp it out into something totally different. It's a good little challenge. Let's try pitching this down an octave. Two. Kind of an odd dirge, March of the Dead kind of feel to it. Did not want that on. Very trippy. Of course we could. There's a lot of intense sound happening, and so all these layers on at once is probably too much. Just playing with different combinations, I almost like this combination a little better. Very odd. Well, from humble beginnings, should be through. Let's just hear where we came from. Absolutely nutty. Cool. So yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, it's not obviously something I think I would that I'm too proud of, but I honestly just kind of like these texture layers here. You know, and all the rest of this stuff is just a bit whatever. I would continue tweaking on it. You could hear some really deep, nasty saxophone playing with this. So that's what this needs. It just needs some nasty saxophone, really slow and guttural and textural and warpy. Keep hearing just little things I want to tweak, as always. I hate leaving sketches in any kind of state of disarray. I usually like to at least try and get them to a spot when I pick them back up, I'll be able to, you know, have some inspirational ideas. That's funny. I kind of actually like this. Just coming in, maybe just every so often fading in. It's a very nutty piece that needs some acoustic instruments, like a contrabass flute or a baritone sax, or some really kind of weird harmonic nasty cello. There's some fun interplay between some of these sounds. Cool. All right, well, that is that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a bit of a jump around, different ideas, and kind of a bit of pulling teeth at the end there to try to get some interesting sounds. Honestly, I think with this effects layer, the first stuff we started doing before adding in this analog and this extra beat layer was the most interesting stuff that came out of this. But you know, have fun with this sketch, and feel free to pull any parts out and remix them and run them through your own effects and have fun. And till next time.